All right, so with our platform, there are a number of ways that you can capture leads on your site naturally without having a pop-up that comes up as soon as somebody signs in or anything like that. I don't usually cover it, but I will, just in the sense that you can set that up. I just don't recommend it on your homepage, because the purpose behind your homepage is somebody has seen your web address on your business card or a sign in a yard or something like that. I know I think I've got a mixed audience today of both mortgage and agents, so I'm going to try to cover examples of both. But once they go to your domain or your web address, they're going to hit your homepage, and the purpose behind the homepage is for me to immediately know, hey, I'm looking to relocate to Oklahoma City. Bam, this is the page that has the information that I want, and then it's going to kind of lead me to some of the other ones. But it's very, very easy to, even just through the navigation, if I'm looking to sell my house, I know this is going to be the information I'm looking for. If I'm looking to buy, there's this, looking for a property. For loans, you can do loan programs, an application. There's a number of different ways. You're really only limited in these things by your creativity and by your imagination. So with that, I'm going to kind of cover some of the built-in lead capture methods that we've got. Again, like I said, there's not really one on the home page, which is fine, because you want them to go in and deeper to the site, because they're not going to provide you even their name and email address. They're not going to give you that information unless you've given them something of value, whether that's a really good content page that has the answers to the questions that they're looking for, an ebook, or you've got listings that they're maybe interested in. So that's really the name of the game when it comes to lead capture, is your site has to have the content that's valuable first before people will trust you enough to give you a name and email. Something that is also kind of worthy of noting is these days especially, people don't necessarily always fill out lead capture forms on sites. What they're more apt to do is connect with you on your social media, so Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn to a lesser degree, maybe not Pinterest, but definitely Facebook and Twitter are the two that I would consider if you aren't focusing your social media efforts. Those are two. Instagram is another one. We do have a video about setting up social media accounts. And I know we're planning on getting some more of those. I need to go back and remind myself which ones I covered in that one so I can do another one on the ones that I didn't. Just because while we're not able to manage the social media for you, we can at least show you and share our knowledge of how it works on the through video form. So that's something to keep in mind, is you may wind up getting leads from your social media, because people can send you a direct message without having to give you their personal information, which some people aren't ready to do that yet. Okay, so site-wise, what can you do? I'm going to try to start with things that can both be on mortgage and agent sites, which the good news is there's really only one thing that the agents would have on theirs that the mortgage guys don't, and that's just the tied in IDX lead capture. All right. Easiest way to do lead capture if you don't currently have anything on your site, or if you don't. This is probably the easiest takeaway of this class. Set up an ebook page. We have provided pages. Let's do house not selling, just because you may have noticed it was one of my buttons on the home page. Just because one of the reasons these ebooks work so well for lead capture is, again, it's that value for giving somebody the information. And you don't have to write this ebook. It's a PDF that we've put together that your customer fills this out. You get the lead information from this, and then they get an email with the PDF that's the ebook, and it have your information. It looks like it's coming from you. It's not marked as coming from us or anything like that. We can set this up in a couple of mouse clicks. Let me show you. All right, so the first thing we're going to do to get into the back end is, after the domain name here, you just type in inbound marketing. I'm actually not going to do that because I want to stay on this page. But once you do, it'll take you into the dashboard. You may have a login screen, so just enter in your username and password, and then you'll wind up here. Since this is something that's a capture part of your site, under the capture tab is where we're going to find this. So capture, ebook landing page, I'm going to click. And you have all of these ebooks available to choose from. We do, this is on an agent site, but we do have ebooks for mortgage as well. So just because I'm showing you this on an agent site doesn't mean, mortgage guys, you're left out. Your list I don't think is quite as long because some of these are more agent oriented, but you guys do have your own set to choose from. Process is still the same. So the one that we were setting up is 7 reasons your home isn't selling. I had opted to change that to something that's a little bit more of a pain point with the customer, is if it's coming across as the marketing mistakes ebook, that's really vague, and you don't want things to be vague when you're trying to communicate to somebody, especially your clients, because they're not industry professionals. They don't understand that maybe one of the reasons their house isn't selling is because it's not being marketed correctly by their current agent, or if they're doing, for sale by owner or something like that, they may not realize some of those things. So let's clarify this again. House not selling. I really don't know how to get more clear than that, because your ask was like, is your house not selling? Well, let me tell you what I can do to help. Or, hey, let me give you this free resource that'll give you some information as to maybe why it's not selling. And let me pull these two up so you can kind of see these side by side to see what translates to what. Whee! Okay. So, I mean, this lead capture form, sorry, you guys can't see when I point at the screen. This lead capture form that you're not really able to edit it, but you don't really need to, because first name, last name, email address, that's like the bare minimum that you need. And the shorter the form is, the more likely somebody is to actually fill it out. So you have to kind of keep that balance between getting enough information to be able to help the person, but not so much that they're like, halfway through the form going, oh my gosh, this is worse than the SATs. I'm going to stop filling it out now. Because especially if they're also doing a loan application and all that, they've done a lot of form filling already. So subject of the book is what's going to the subject of the book is where you select which PDF they're going to be getting. The title right here, 7 reasons your home isn't selling, is what shows up here. Subtitle there. When you're setting these up, you can do specific contact groups. So if it's, so these are going to be sellers, so I'm going to want anybody that fills this out to be put in my sellers group. You can edit each one of these what you'll learn sections if you want. and then this is where you put in your bio. Your headshot is going to be pulled in automatically from your site. So it's just a matter of coming up with a short bio. 300 character limit. You want to try to keep it as clear and concise as possible. One thing that you might consider doing as well is once you get a very concise bio like this will work for most of your social media profiles as well. So that's one way you can have cohesiveness across your presence online is anytime somebody goes to see either a business directory listing, a social media listing, or anything like that, this little short bio matches across those. That's going to really help you out in the long run because people are going to know, hey, this is definitely the guy I'm looking for or gal, because I know this is them because of their bio. Just little details like that can help kind of even psychologically cement and build trust because as humans we like things to be consistent, and when we see that, whether through visual branding like use of logos, use of the same colors across social media and your site, tying all of those things together, then the more trust we have in that level of detail being paid to our own individual transaction as well. So, okay. Random little side trip there, but back to this. So we've discussed the landing page URL. That's going to be what shows up here. Let's get this to reload. Oh, it's because I typed it. There we go. That's where it shows up, is this area here. You can edit that. Some optimization articles or resources will say, hey, you're going to want to put some of your keywords in here. Yeah, you can, but you're not going to get as much weight for it than if you were editing to kind of put them here as well, and they need to be used naturally as well. Don't just list selling your home here, selling your home here, sell, 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 sell. It doesn't need to be quite that much, but this is a good one, so you can leave it. You don't have to edit any of these things that I'm telling you can. I'm just making sure that you're aware that you are able to if you want to change up our wording a little bit. No big deal. So the button name we already changed to the house not selling. That's where right here. So instead of saying marketing mistakes ebook, it says house not selling, because that's again a lot more clear than it was. Then you just hit save and continue, or save and close, and then it creates it on your site. I'm not going to do that because I'm going to get an error message because I already have this page created. So once we've got that created, it's going to show up. And how I got to this content page area is publish, website content page, brings you right here. It's going to show up in our custom. So you see, here's our house not selling. You just check the box, because a checked box means that it's going to show up in your navigation. And then once you've got it checked, all you're going to do is go to this step, which is where you can drag or drop it into one of your categories. So some strategies to kind of keep in mind with the ebooks is, what type of customer are you wanting to target? If you're trying to become more of a listings agent, I would focus on maybe adding one of the books directed towards sellers first, versus the some of the buyers. You can create both types. I would just in the order right here. Most of these are all yeah, most of these are all buying. The home moving can kind of go either way, but these two are definitely sellers, so I'm going to want to make sure that those are the top navigation items underneath my main one, just so that way my sellers don't have to look very hard for them. Little things like that can really help your user experience. So we'll save those changes. So that's one way to get lead capture on your site. You easily could have had it done in a fraction of the time that I just went through. It was just because I was going through and making sure to explain kind of why some of it's important and what you can change. So very, very easy to do. You could add a couple of them to your site, I think you could get all of them set up in maybe less than a half hour if you really wanted to. And as always, if you need help with that, or you go to do it on your own and you're not sure or have questions, please call our support team. That's what they're there for. It doesn't cost. Something recently that I've had a lot of questions about is, does it cost anything to call our support team? No, that's part included in the platform is support for the product. So please use them. They're here. They're happy to help. It's what we do. All right. So that was one. All right, let's shift back over to our site. One of the other ways that you can do lead capture, I mentioned having pop-ups is not usually the best way to capture leads, mainly because people are really good at clicking out of them, or they'll leave a site if you think about how many times you may have gone to, you clicked on an article or something on Facebook, or you did a Google search and you went to a web page that has an article. Well, what they did, and then you click on it and you don't even get 2 lines in before you already have something right there in your face saying, hey, sign up for this, or give me your email for this. And what do? You click out of it, or you leave the site, depending on how invested you are into reading that article. Your customers are going to do the same thing. So a lot of this too is kind of think about your own behavior online, and then look at your site as though you're trying to see it for the first time. One good idea too is if you could sit on the shoulder of somebody, or have a friend or family member that's never been to your site or anything like that, have them go and just kind of watch them interact with it and see what they kind of get hung up on, and use that feedback to improve either your site or how you've got lead capture or things like that set up. Okay, so the other way, I'm going to save that one for last because that's agent only. Let's go to our 9 steps to owning page. So this is one of our provided pages that we've got on your site. And for this lead capture, you'll notice that if you scroll, you've got all this really good information here. And then when you scroll down, there's a form just kind of hanging out here going, hey, you can fill me out. I'm here. I'm friendly. So it's the same type of making it very easy to know what the next steps are. So I've just read this. I'm really excited about getting, starting the home buying process. So yeah, I want to be contacted to get more information. All right, bam, bam, name, email. And then you'll notice that there are some additional fields. So this is what I was talking about of, if I wanted to, this form could only be a name and an email. Those are the 2 minimum fields that you have to have. And when I show you here in a second how to create a custom lead capture form and how to embed it, we'll kind of cover those. But I do have 3 additional fields here. 5 fields, not a huge effort to fill out. I wouldn't feel overwhelmed doing this, especially since with the optional next to the phone, I know I don't have to provide that information if I don't want to. But generally knowing how many beds and baths, that's going to help whoever I'm contacting figure out what my needs are for a home without having to fill out, here's your laundry list of options, and then they get overwhelmed and don't bother filling out the sheet or the form. Custom lead capture forms work way better than, they're almost twice as likely to get filled out as one of our stock forms that are generic. Plus it gives you a lot more control over the message and kind of the calls to action within it. So, you know, item number 2, first was the ebook, was create an ebook on your site, at least one. Takeaway homework possibility number 2 is create custom lead capture pages, or not pages, sorry, custom lead capture forms on your site. Actually, there's going to be 2A and B. Sorry, that's more 2B. 2A is make sure that all of your pages, except the home page, you don't need it there, but all of your pages have an embedded lead capture form on them, so that way once somebody finishes whatever the content is, they can then fill out the form if they choose, or they can continue navigating, but it doesn't matter what page they're on, they're going to have a form on that page that they can fill out. So let's delve into 2A for a second, okay? Okay, so for lead capture, we're going to go to website lead form. It's actually going to drop us in this lead capture area. So if you're already in the back end, you're going to be under this X site anyway. So you're going to click on lead capture here. This takes you to the Power View. You'll notice we are on the 9 steps to owning, and the form that we've got on there is the excited to buy your first home form and first time home buyers. This is where we can really get into making sure that we've got the right forms on the right pages. So this buying foreclosures and REO, got a question, not the best form. In fact, I would avoid a generic got a question form at all costs if possible, just because it's so generic and so vague, people tend to shy away from it. The more direct you can make the form, the better off you're going to be, because they're going to kind of be guided in the direction that you already want them to go in. So so it's kind of like leading the witness, as it were. So you can kind of lead them along their journey. So for this one, I'm going to click on edit settings. We're going to change this to looking to buy, and I'm going to set this to my buyers list. You guys won't have as many of these as we do. It's because this has been a site that's been used and reused for years now. There we go. So buyers. By setting it to go into a particular contact group, that's going to make it a lot easier later on when you're sending in or setting up your email campaigns, or getting that part of things going with it. But for now, we're going to just kind of cover the classification of them. There are some groups that we do get you started out with: buyers, sellers, Excite leads is one of them, so you can kind of, however you want to run that. Excuse me a second. Okay. And so now we've got this, so it's a little bit more targeted, because, you know, buying foreclosures and REOs, that's going to be buyers information. So again, we're getting away from being the vague got a question to being a little bit more targeted. Honestly, we could do a lot better with that one, because the ones that we get you set up with, I'm going to hit save here, are going to be, so From here, we're going to go to Form Manager. This is where you actually control what the forms look like. The four we use to get you started out with are got a question, home status, looking to buy, looking to sell. You are not able to edit any of these four just because they're default. You can see how many pages they appear on currently, and you can see how many leads you're getting from those pages. And you can see ever. So this helps you really kind of dial in what forms are working well for you, which ones aren't, what messages you might want to try to tweak a little bit to maybe try a different approach to encourage people to fill it out. So what we did is we took, buying, got more specific with it to make the excited to buy your first home. So I'm going to bring that up right next to our form here. Excuse me. So you can see how that translates. Okay. So when you're creating a custom form, the closer you can tie it in with the subject matter of that page, the better off you're going to be. You don't necessarily have to go to the level that you've got a one-to-one. So for this particular page, I've got, this exact form and it only goes with that page. Now, doing that, I actually recommend doing that, but in this case, it's excited to buy your first home. It's on our 9 steps to owning because chances are if you've been through the home buying process, you're not necessarily looking at that information again because you've already have that experience. So the 9 steps to owning page really is aimed at the first-time buyer, which is why I'm kind of keeping it targeted to your first home instead of excited to buy your next home or your dream home, or I could change that and it would be fine. But I'm leaving it targeted at first-time home buyers. It also appears on our first-time home buyers page. So you can have things that'll do double duty like that. So you'll notice, so the first thing is to kind of have a title that's going to grab the attention. You can throw in a little emotion. I think one that I made for one of the sellers was, tired of inaccurate estimates or something like that. Because I know one of the big issues in real estate right now, well, it's been for a while to be honest, are people that'll go online, see what the Zestimate is for their house, not realizing that Zillow has no clue that, the other 3 houses in the market that they're using to determine that price have higher end finishes than the one that they're trying to sell that hasn't been updated in, 10 years, but has roughly the same square footage and bedroom space, etc. Zillow doesn't know. Excuse me a second. All right, sorry, springtime in Oklahoma. Got the coughs. Anyway, so get a little creative with it. Think about, okay, and honestly, I would do this maybe on a couple of pages to start out with. Even if you do it on one, create a custom form. So this is, the 2A is, this is getting into the 2B section of this now, because the other half of it is not just turning on all the forms on the pages, which I would do through that power view I showed you a second ago. But then the next step to kind of build upon that is really create those targeted forms. So you've got your title here, your description here, and I would use the description to really set that expectation of if somebody fills this out, what are they going to expect from you? So very directly, it's, fill out this short form, again, kind of playing on the, hey, this is short, this is not a big deal. No obligation consult, because a lot of first-time home buyers think that once they, start working with an agent, that's the agent they have to pretty much work with, no matter whether or not that agent actually does their job. I actually had that my own personal experience with that as the initial agent we had started with when we were looking to buy our first home. We pretty much did all of the legwork for her finding properties, and then she just kind of went dark on us when, you know, so, and for a long time we actually lost our initial pre-qualification, and had to have it pulled again because of the time limit on that, and because we were waiting to hear back from her and figured that we were kind of stuck with her. Didn't know that at the time. Live and learn. So having language like that lets them know, if, hey, just because you're talking to me doesn't necessarily mean that you're stuck with me, and removing some of those barriers only increases the chance of somebody actually filling out the worksheet. And then it's, let them know it's consult about the home buying process. I'm not taking you to show houses. I'm not dragging you in to get, pre-approved. We're just talking about the process or how to get started with it. You're getting information. So, I mean, it really, to me, this sets that expectation. For mortgage guys, it could be, I know especially with the TRID stuff, until you get that intent to proceed from the customer, I know you're not like, I don't remember what it is. It's been a while since I read all of that, but kind of creating some forms around that of letting them know, of, hey, this is just kind of a preliminary talk. We're not going to be doing all this credit pull and things like that, until you let us know you're ready to proceed. So, be friendly. Think about how to reassure them of how their information is going to be used, because that's the number one thing, is they want to know, okay, now that I'm giving you this information, what are you going to be doing with it? So just kind of think about that when you're thinking about your descriptions for your forms. The group title is here. And this one by default is named Contact Info. I got a little creative with it where it said, yes, please contact me, because again, that's another seed of that expectation that if somebody fills this out, they're going to be getting contacted. So they're not shocked when it's like, why am I getting calls from this person that I don't remember filling out a form for, or something like that. Most people know if they fill out a form that they're going to probably get contacted, but it's just another of, hey, yeah, I'm going to be reaching out. So they're not surprised or don't hit unsubscribe from your emails when you do send out those campaigns. You can edit the names here. That's originally this said business phone, I think is the default field name for this. I just went in here and edited it, and you can just do that. See, I'm going to put that back though. There you go. If you did want to give them a field to actually type in, you can choose any one of these, but I usually will use the other. You just give it a name, and then if they need to add more space, you can put that there, and it'll give them some room to type. If you need to delete a section, you just click that button to delete it. Use these arrows to move the groups up above one another if you need to. Use the arrows to rearrange, like the bedrooms and baths just switched. So that's how you can organize those. So once you get it kind of built up, oh, sorry, to add a group, because you have to do that if you're going to have these two sections here, you just click on add a group. Very straightforward, very easy to do. Again, if you would like a walkthrough of this, building your own, please give our support team a call. They're happy to do that. So, okay, yeah, so we've covered everything on that. And we've covered how to put it on there. Some other ideas too, tired of inaccurate estimates. That's what it was. If you click on these, you can see because, you know, for this one you do have to, ooh, I just realized something I didn't cover. So one thing I did not cover that I'm going to cover right now is how to make certain fields in your forms required. You'll notice that there's a red asterisk here, and that these two boxes right here are grayed out. There's no way to uncheck that, because in order for the lead capture to work, have to have a name, have to have an email. For things like seller information for Zestimates, you're going to have the address in order to be able to already prepare and pull a report or do a market analysis for the property that they're wanting to see. So you've got, so by checking these boxes, they have to complete all of that information in order to submit the form. So yeah, that was like the one thing I think I forgot to talk about there. But there you go. Other options for things, I've set up forms before. I don't know why they're not on this one, maybe on a different site I had done back in the day. But you can do one for specific neighborhoods. So if you do a saved search, like for example, we've got, you know, if I was doing one for Northridge out in Shawnee, I could, you know, say, you know, is your next dream home in Shawnee or in an area or this or that neighborhood, depending on what level of region you're wanting to sell at. But, and then you just use that template and change out the city name or the neighborhood name or whatever, and you just kind of copy and paste, and that's a good way where you can get forms that are targeted for your individual neighborhoods or areas. Like Deer Creek's an area, Nichols Hills is an area, Edmond's another area here in the Oklahoma City metro, that you, without having to completely reinvent the wheel every single time. Plus that gives kind of that more specific local, you get a little SEO credit for that, is kind of what the point I was going to make is. All right, so we've covered how to turn on the lead capture. I know one of the things I talked about was how to set it up to where it's going to come up after so many page views. Because if you're going to have something that interrupts like that, I would recommend setting it no fewer than 3 pages into the site, just because, again, it's about somebody being able to access and see your expertise to build the trust with you before you start asking them for information. So to do that, there's 2 ways. First way is going to be lead capture pop-up. If you're in this section, we're going to go to, actually, I'm going to just do that. And it's going to take you to the doorway forms section. This is also found under the lead capture area over on that left-hand side. Right now we've got it set for every 5 pages. You get to choose which form it is. You can do a got a question. I would really probably recommend, if you're going to set this up, creating your own version of got a question that's a little less generic than ours, of, you know, how can, you know, Metro Properties help you today? Or something like that, that's not so generic. Even though it's a very vague question, that's what I would do, and just have, you know, a name and email, and then a field where they can type in comments. You can set it to require them to proceed. I really wouldn't, because if they want to skip it and still kind of feel out your site, you don't want to deny them that opportunity. That's my opinion. There are some markets that the lead setting up lead capture like this works in, some aren't. That's why we don't set this up for you normally. That's why we don't try to tell you how you should have it set up, because what may work, these recommendations as far as for every 5 pages, would probably work either around here versus in another market, or however you're actually wanting to run your business, you may want that number lower. We're just here to offer advice, show you the settings. You guys can set it up however you wish to. And then this setting here is until a visitor fills it out, it'll only show it 3 times. So somebody could visit 15 pages on my site, which, yeah, more or less that's the full equivalent of the site, almost, before the form just quits showing up altogether. But I'm still covered because I've got all of my embedded forms, and I've got several different ebook pages too. So I've got those bases covered. If you're an agent, you can choose to include listings in that, because I know some agents are always worried of, well, if they can just view all my listings without filling anything out, how am I going to get any leads from my site? Guys, they're going to go to Zillow if you're forcing them to fill out information before they're either trying to save a search or save a lead, or sorry, save a property that they're interested in, just because that's usually where they're going to start anyway. Excuse me, guys. Or there are plenty of other agents out there that don't have that constraint on their listings. So it's up to you if you want to include that. Again, showing you the settings, letting you kind of figure out how you want to do it. The beautiful thing about this is it's in the back end of your site, so you can hop in and change it at any time that you decide you want to. So let's see. And then this one is specifically for listing details. So basically after, let's see, we'll let them look at 3 houses, or they actually click to have the listings details come up, not just see it in the property. And then maybe after so I probably should click those. So you can have that done. And then this also lets you know, if you set this up, how many leads this is actually getting you. So if you have it set up and you notice that it's not really doing anything for you, then you may want to either bump these numbers down or disable it. So that's a way you can kind of use these to gauge, same here, of how many times has one of these doorway forms kind of pop-ups come up, and is it actually giving you leads for having these on. So if you set these up, both of these are at 0. I would usually recommend letting things like this run for no less than a month, and then probably look at it, once a quarter or something like that to see if it's still giving you leads, because if not, I would consider adjusting my settings here. So you can set it that it's going to require somebody that after they've either viewed for the listing group here, that they have viewed however many listings, that they're going to have to fill out something in order to get more. I really don't think my advice is leave it optional, just because, nowadays there's Zillow and all those out there. So do this, you click save. Now as we go through the site, I might actually get some pop-ups. Maybe, maybe not, we don't know. Okay, so that, and this works for mortgage too. Mortgage, you guys aren't going to have this listings detail trigger or this listings option, but everything else is going to be the same. So you can set that up and still get that same look there. All right, so IDX. That is, oh, good. I've got about a little less than 15 minutes left. The last method of lead capture that's part of your platform and that you want to make sure is set up on your site works if you're using our integrated IDX feed. So we have to have an agreement with your board in order to pull the feed for this part to work. Either that or you're manually entering your listings through the back end, which is another option for that. And I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Maybe not. I'm going to click on one of these, and depending on your MLS, it may take a little bit for the properties to load. I just realized I probably should have clicked on a bigger area because I don't know if these guys have any searches. All right, cool. Oh, yeah, we have a couple houses for sale there. All right. So on the back end, I created a saved IDX search, and that's something we can cover in a future class. If you would like to know how to set up a saved IDX search, please call our support team. They can walk you through that. But let's see. So I've got this. Let's say I'm looking for, yeah, I need that. And search. So I don't, if I want to click on save the search, I'm going to be prompted to sign up or sign in if I already have a profile. So this is one way that's built into the agent sites that you're going to be able to get leads. The other is if I go down here and I decide that I want to, sorry, let's say I wanted to add this to my favorites. I'm also going to get prompted at that point to fill out, to register, so that way whatever I'm favoriting I can come back to later on the site. So those are two more ways that lead capture is built into the IDX. The nice thing about our IDX as well is it is indexed by Google. So you are able to, whatever's here and on your site, it's going to be counted towards your search engine. Whereas if you're using a framed in link, search engines don't give you credit for framed in links because you're just pretty much putting a website within another website. So it's not really your content, so the credit goes to them, not you. Okay, I've got about 10 minutes left for class. Do you guys have any questions? Please feel free to type them in the chat window. If you need me to kind of go over something again, I can. But this has kind of been an overview of the lead capture options that are available in our platform and how to get those set up very easily on your account. All right, well, since I don't have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and leave this open for about the next 10 minutes in case somebody's typing something, but I am going to stop the recording.